Booklet?
She said this is for the birds about making it.
Make it a uniform.
When one sits in the back and talks too much, he's not ready for this time. This morning we'll be in Matthew 13. We'll go ahead and back up from what we finished up with last Wednesday. Start there. Matthew 13, 47 through 50. Does somebody want to read that, please?
47. The parable of the dragnet. Is that the right spot? Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet that cast into the sea and gathered some of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore, and they sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but threw the bad away. So it will be at the end of the age, the angels will come forth, separate the wicked from among the just, and cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be a wailing and gnashing of teeth.
All right. What do we see overall here? Or what's the theme?
Separation, and then going, the wicked going into the bad place.
Heaven and hell.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Well, I think it was just simplified for us. But yes, it's the church, the example of those that are following God and those that are showing that they're following God. When a net goes out through and is dragged behind the boat, it catches everything. Those in the church, if I don't want to word this, I had this all in my head too, that's a bad part. If we've got everybody in the building, can you have both in the building? Yeah, you can have both. If you're out in the world talking to people, you got everybody out in the world too, right? All right. Somebody want to read Matthew 22:10 real quick, please?
So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all of whom they found, both bad and good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests.
Okay. Another example of the same type of a thing is everybody's in, but not everybody gets, not necessarily a member, but you're not added in. And those that aren't will be cast out. What happened to the fish? They were sorted. Okay. So the good one, let's see. I'm not going to word it correctly if I don't do it right. Okay, they were just cast out. What happened to the bad fish? They were thrown out on the dry ground to do away with. If you're a fish, what do you have to have to survive?
Water.
Just like we have to have air, right? Just backwards. So, to get rid of something you don't like, what the Jews couldn't have at that time because of the laws were like the catfish, anything that eats dead stuff. Most of everything that I like. I like catfish, shrimp, stuff like that. But they didn't eat stuff like that. So they threw it out on the ground for the birds, animals, or just to die. And that's an example of what happens to those that aren't following God. What happened in the Old Testament whenever they didn't follow God?
They basically got enslaved every time, right?
There was a punishment. They were defeated. Usually you get defeated in a war, you lose people, right? And those that didn't follow God, God took care of it. There was an immediate punishment. We don't have that today the way he did then. So ours is coming in the end. And that's an example of what happens here. You're getting two separations. One's going one, one's going the other. And there's destruction.
Judgment days are really.
That's what it's referring down to as Judgment Day, when everybody's separated out. You've got sinners that don't repent or whatever. I don't really know how I want it. I know it won't come out right if I try to say it. So I won't. But the wicked, those that don't follow God, will be dealt with at that time. Those that are faithful and follow God will go into rest or your reward. All right. Let's jump over to Matthew 24, 14 to, we're not going to read 2:30. Let's go. Let's see here. Let's go 14 to 18 of Matthew 25. Did I say 24? I meant 25, sorry. Evidently the guy behind the pen this morning didn't write down correctly.
14 through 18.
Yeah, 14 through 18, please.
For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability, and immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them, and made another 5 talents. And likewise he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money.
Excuse me. What's a talent? Besides, what I use today, but at that time, what was a talent? It was a coin, it was money. And he'd give them an amount to use. What do we define it to today?
Our skills?
Good job.
I mean, I don't know if skills is the right.
Well,
Our abilities might be better.
your abilities, skills, I'm gonna liken them to the same thing. Because if we're capable of doing something, even if we're not very good at it, you got me in front of you all today, so that, it's kind of the bottom of the barrel.
It's kind of like Moses when he started, he didn't speak very well, and then he got better too. So our skills can change, or our abilities can get better.
If we're using something, we're refining something, correct? Usually it should get better with practice.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. And if it's something that we're afraid to use, as we'll get into in a little bit, we'll never know if we were able to even use it anyway. All right. How were these talents broken up?
By the best person, I think.
It was broken up by 5, 2, and 1.
Yeah.
Why was that?
I think he kind of knew who was going to be the most successful. And
Given to their ability, correct? Are each one of us capable of doing different things? Are we capable of doing the same things?
they interact and overlap.
Everybody can get up and walk out the door, right? We'll go that route. So all of us are capable of doing something. We're all capable of doing the same thing to a certain extent, to the ability that we were given. We were able to do that. But does God know what we're capable of? Is he going to give us more than we can handle? So if in this parable, if he'd give the 5 to the guy that could only handle doing one thing, how would that have ended any differently? He'd have went and dug a hole, put 5 of them in a hole, right? So if one isn't capable of doing it, God's not going to overburden us with the things that we're not capable of doing. He knows what we can handle. What else do we notice with that? Verse 15.
Gave it to him 11, he left.
And he left. God gives us things we can handle. This guy gave the servants what they could handle. Was there any oversight? Was he there to babysit them? Kind of had to work by yourself, right? How many times today do we have a job where we don't have anybody watching over us as we go day to day? I mean, it doesn't really matter. Somewhere along the lines, there'll be somebody seeing you and overseeing things.
Depends if I mess up or not.
I don't even know how to answer that one. You're not supposed to mess up. But no, there was no oversight. The man giving out the money did it, and then with faith, these guys could take care of it, and he went the other direction. All right, what do we see these guys doing? Verse 16.
Well, the one traded with the same and increased his value,
Okay.
value of the talents.
If you increased them, what can we apply that to today?
Used them, figured out I could do more.
This kind of fun. But yes, used it to gain more, right? He had 5, he went out and he made another 5. If we apply ourselves to anything, what usually happens? Not every time, but what usually happens?
You accomplish what
You accomplish something. And the next time you go to attempt the same thing, how long does it usually take? Or what? Less time,
Get better at it.
you're better at it, more confident. You're more apt to be able to do it more smoothly, right?
Mhm.
you get better at it.
You're going to be capable of seeing things before they happen, kind of a deal. All right. What did the 2-talent guy do?
Same thing.
Double.
He doubled his, right? So he was capable of taking the things that he had got given him and making more out of them, is what we're going to say at the moment. Is they were capable of getting it done. All right. Now, what did the 1-talent man do?
You buried it and hid it.
All right. Why did he do that?
Because he was afraid he was going to lose it.
He didn't want to apply himself, did he? He didn't want to take the time it took to actually go do something with it. At that time, what did the Jews do with money that they didn't, or things of value that they wanted to keep? They buried it, right? I'm sure they have a better memory than me, because if I went out and buried a bunch of stuff, I don't know if I'd ever find it. Because half the time I can leave a tool out in the shop, and 2 minutes after I set it down, I'm all afternoon looking for it. But they didn't want to lose something, and there was no safety deposit boxes or no locked doors type of thing, so they bury it to hide it. All right.
Is there, and this is maybe a bad question, is there more than one lesson in this? In my, opinion, from, your talents to your money to, it seems that there's many lessons in this one parable that we can apply in different parts of our lives, but the primarily one being our talents and how to take care of our money, how to, and others that maybe I wouldn't even catch.
The scary part with it is you can do, there's multiple different directions you can run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on how you look at it. Your mom brought something out last week that hit me from left field because I hadn't even looked at it that way. And it's to me, I'm gonna liken it to every time I open the Bible and I read something, if I read it 3 or 4 times over, each time you read it, you can almost take a different path of how you interpret. Not necessarily how the word means, but a different way of viewing it. It gives you a different idea of what you should do. In here, it's talking about the talents, as in your abilities and whatnot, but also it's a good example of how and what to do with things you've got. I'll come back down here and figure out where I was at.
Can I say something?
No, go ahead.
Chapter 25, it's speaking to God's servants. And so, Jesus is not going to use a parable that we can't apply something to, because there is the money aspect to it. It's wise.
I guess my main question is, is there a wrong thing to take from it,
No, I don't think it's wrong.
Much money or your talents or what you've been given, is there a wrong application to be guarded from?
I definitely think that you could use that example to how to manage our money, because there's other places to talk about managing our money. This is one. And then the main concept is chapter 25 is speaking to God's servants. So it's Christians he's talking to here. We're going to be Christian.
Well, it's all the ones that are going to go out and do things. It's the don't go hide behind the rock type mentality. Don't go stop just because somebody tells you something. It's you want to get out there and use the abilities that God gave you versus just sit back in left field and do nothing about it. Somebody want to read Luke 12:20, please? This will fit in right here.
The God said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee, then whose shall those things be which thou hast provided?
So we're accountable for the things that we've got, right? The things we do and don't do. So I think at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you're using your talents to the best of your ability to further God's word or follow him. All right, somebody want to read 19 through 30, please? Go ahead and read the rest of it.
What chapter?
25, Matthew. Sorry,
19 through 20.
19 through 30.
After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant, you were faithful over a few things. I'll make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He who also had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant, you have been faithful over a few things. I'll make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I know you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. Now is afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gathered where I have not scattered seed. So he ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. Therefore take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has more will be given, and he he will have abundance, but from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Okay. So as we go along here, verse 19, after a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. Does that show the amount of time that we have? For what we're given with it? You know, we don't know how long we'll have here. But as it states, you know, it's not just a short time that he's given these three the opportunity to do something. You know, so God's given us time to do things with what we have. It's up to us on how we use that time. All right. So the 5-talent man brought 5 other talents, correct? And what does his Lord say to him?
Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will make thee a ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord.
Okay, we tell people all the time, you know, through hard work and whatnot, you'll get a reward. You know, you work through a job, you get a promotion. Here, the servant had doubled his money, and the Lord said that, here's your reward. He's going to be over many things. And it took me a little bit this morning as I was going back over this, to get in my head that what I'm going to say here in a little bit. But we notice that it's over many things. What did 2-talent man get? Verse 23.
Well done, good and faithful servant.
The same thing as the other one.
There's where is the 5 and the 2 got the same reward. How's that?
Because they both went out and worked.
There you go. It didn't matter how many talents you had. It's that you use them the way you should to help God. I can have one, well, I'll jump up. I'll have 2 talents, which I don't really think the talents really mean as much as it does just using your ability. If I'm just sitting here doing nothing, Sundays and Wednesdays, or any other day of the week for that matter, what am I actually gaining?
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't gain a thing. And if I come in with an attitude that I only have to do enough to get me in the door, what do I receive?
Nothing.
Nothing. Without a little bit of effort on your part, and when I say a little bit, you know, enough to show you care, put some force and effort. We shouldn't do as much here as we do at a regular job, correct? When we go to work, do we just throw our feet up on the desk and take a nap? I wouldn't think you'd have a job very long. And Eric's over here smirking. So, 'cause I know what he's thinking. Some jobs are easier than others, I'll put it that way. But we should want to go out and at least give it the effort that we've got. Some people are better at things than others. But as long as you give 100% effort, God's not going to ask for any more than you're capable of doing.
This ties in well with John 15. You just said the branches that do not bear fruit we cast out. That's what he's talking about, bearing fruit, doing good works. Because the end of the chapter really ties well into this. So, using your talents to do good works.
Well, without that, what do you have?
Nothing.
I mean, we're going to see in a minute what happens with the branch that doesn't bear fruit, or the person that doesn't want to use their talents at all, as this servant did not. All right. What do we see of the 1-talent man? What do you say?
When he was wicked and slothful.
I believe in verse 24 is kind of where it's at. Lord, I need you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. Was this man that way? No, I lost my paper. Give me just a second. I lost part of one. That's handy. The way he put it out there, this master is unbearable, really is what it comes down to. Anybody that would want to go about that, I mean, what kind of person does it show there? Or how would we kind of view that person today?
Selfish.
Selfish, kind of overbearing, wants everything, doesn't care how he gets it, right? Kind of ruthless. Is God that way? No. So because of the servant viewed him that way, and he buried the money, what did he really lose?
He was making an excuse.
His excuses. He was coming up with reasons why he didn't do anything with it. In verse 20, what?
It's not like he lost the money,
No, it's not like he lost his money.
but so when the Lord came back, he's like, here it is, I didn't lose it, I didn't squander it, I didn't,
Just didn't draw away there.
They're in where
and
it's
that's,
coming.
and the Lord, then decided, well, he was just lazy.
So I scared Miss Kathy last week when she started talking. Sent me off. But no, I think he probably viewed himself, or people today, how do they view themselves? In kind of the same light. I think that's where you were going with it. Are the ones that think they're doing enough to be covered. And those that, I show up, Wednesday and Sunday, some meeting days, but do I apply myself? I was there, I checked the box, and I'll liken that to, a box checker. Person shows up to work. I've seen guys that all they want to do is come to work, check a box. I showed up, now pay me. Versus those that show up and want to do a job. And I don't care where it's at, what kind of line of business it is. You always see the ones that stand out, but you usually hear about the ones that are there to check a box. Because over time, they're looked at upon like, we don't need that kind of a mentality. We don't need that kind of a person showing up. And here, it's kind of like after getting caught, being the guy that just checking the box. Now he's got an answer for, well, yeah, you're here, but what are you doing? All right. I should have highlighted my Bible to be easier to see it. Verse 25, and I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, you have what is yours. Well, what's the answer for that? I mean, receiving back what you give somebody, and this wasn't a short period of time. Like Ron said, you could have put it in the bank or with the money changers and got something out of the deal. Verse 26, what did the Lord tell him?
You're wicked and lazy.
Wicked and lazy, and didn't even want to attempt to do what you should have been doing with it, right? He knew. In other words, he knew what he was dealing with, correct? How many times do we get in a position where you know who you're dealing with and you know you have to kind of watch things? We want to be to the point where we want to make sure that we're covered. Well, for us to be covered, can we just sit around? No, we gotta go out and put some effort in, right? All right. Verse 27, what did the Lord tell him he should have done differently?
Put it in the bank, that's how it is.
Put it in the bank. Now, what I did read this morning, it's kind of entertaining, a little bit on that front, was the money changers. I didn't realize that at that time, the money changers was kind of like, not like really like a bank, but they were changing money out. You'd come into the area, it would be like us going into Mexico. I'll use Mexico as an example. You know, you can use our money there somewhat, but they're wow.
Change.
You have to exchange it for their currency. That's the word I was looking for. Their currency and our currency is different. Well, when you came in, the money they had in other countries around in other nations didn't necessarily line up with what they wanted. So you change that out. So if you were a person taking your money to money changers, you go give it to them. And the next thing is they may or may not have been truthful with you. So it was kind of skeptical. So that gives me a reason to think that, okay, this guy did this because he hit it in the ground. He didn't want to lose it. And I think it was from the fear of he might lose it with the money changers, the reason why he didn't use it. But the example still goes to show today that if we're not using our talents, using what God's given us, you lose it. Now, that's what ultimately happens here is it goes away. All right. What happened to this town? Verse 28.
It was given to someone, or to the one that had 10 talents.
Given to the one that had 10 talents, right? Because he was capable of 5 and doubling it to 10. He's going to be capable of more than that. But it goes to show that, you know, even those that think they have it, it'll be given to those that already have. What is taken away from us if we're not doing the things that we should be? If we're not following God, if we're not doing the things that we should be doing, we're going to lose everything. What happened to this unprofitable servant?
He was cast like the fish.
He was cast just like the fish. He was. He was cast out. And the Jews, to be thrown out of the city, thrown out of the area, you were basically turned the back on, turned completely away from. And that's the example here is you're cast out into outer darkness. You know, it would take a lot, if you think about it, to think that you were all right and then to realize that you didn't get the things done that you should have got done, and you realize it's on you. You know, the one person you have to blame at that point is yourself. You didn't go out and use the talents that we have been given the way we should have. We'll lose everything. Any comments? I've been doing a lot of talking. I don't like doing any talking.
Outer darkness, for the weeping and gnashing of teeth. I can say no more. That's all I have.
I don't even know what to say.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, no. I get what you said. I'm getting my mind wrapped around it. Sometimes it's a little slow. The uptick is a little slow. Yeah, the weeping and the gnashing of the teeth, out of darkness, punishment. I mean, it gives you a pretty good example of what it means and what it is. Good and evil, you've got light and darkness. You know, we meander around in the dark, half the time we trip, stub our toe, bounce off of things. You know, I can understand why there would be weeping and gnashing of teeth, because now you've lost all. All right, any other comments this morning? Thank you. We're gonna wait another 15 minutes on Jim.